Yo, yo, yo. Today we're taking a different route than usual. We're talking history because history is a subject that absolutely fascinates me, and the Roman Empire's history and the Roman people's history is a very fascinating subject in itself. So, the subject for today, I want to see how this new series of historical facts is received because I might do a lot more because I have a vast knowledge of the ancient history. Apparently, it's something that I enjoy. Now, the year is 41 AD. On the 21st of January, Caligula gets assassinated in a huge conspiracy involving senators, Praetorian guards, and influential nobles. Now, my assumption is that at the center of this whole, um, what you want to call it, conspiracy lays a single man, Claudius, his own uncle and his successor by Roman law. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into who Caligula was. And for that, we have to go back to the year 30. He was the son of the Roman general Germanicus and Agrippina the Elder, making him a direct descendant of Octavian, because Agrippina the Elder was Octavian's daughter. Octavian, or brother Augustus, was the first Roman emperor. Now, because the line of succession in what you call it in the Roman Empire was a little blurry, Tiberius was the emperor, but he had no children of his own, which made um, Agrippina's line the successors, the heirs to the throne. Now, let's fast forward. Uh, I mean, he was born in what year? Let me check that. In the year 12, 2 years before or after. Is it after? 2 years before Tiberius was made emperor. Right. So what ensues afterwards is a power struggle between Tiberius and Agrippina the Elder and Germanicus. In the end, in the year 30, Tiberius succeeds in defeating Agrippina and making Agrippina and Caligula's older brothers, Drusus and Nero, enemies of the state. That means in Roman law that an enemy of the state is a person who is either marked for death or marked for exile. They cannot stay in Roman society by any means possible. They are a danger to Roman society, Roman culture, and everything Roman, basically. It was it was the heaviest sentence you could pass on to someone. Now, in the year 30, Tiberius manages to make that happen. Why doesn't he make Caligula a public enemy? Simply because he doesn't view Caligula as a threat. Now, every account from that age says that Caligula was very witty, very smart, a natural orator, and very bright. He learned how to dissimulate and how to pretend not to be that because he hid his intelligence, his knack of politics, his understanding of politics, everything that made him a threat under the guise of sexual deviancy, love for theater. So, what you have to understand from Roman culture was that loving the theater as a royal meant that you were feminine, you were not masculine enough to be taken seriously by the aristocracy. Loving the theater, loving acrobats, that kind of stuff, and engaging in promiscuity meant that you were not manly enough or enough of a man to actually take charge of an empire by that point. So Tiberius never saw Caligula as a threat, but he still retained Caligula as his hostage. And in the year 31, just 1 year after finally defeating Agrippina the Elder, Tiberius retreats to Capri, to the island of Capri, where he has this holy state, and takes Caligula with him. There, he actually befriends um, Praetorian, the Praetorian guards that were there with Tiberius. He befriends Tiberius's grandson, uh, called Tiberius. Right, that makes sense. And he actually has a friendly relationship with everybody there. Now, everybody from that, I mean, the writers from that period, actually thought that Caligula was dissimulating a lot of stuff and drawing attention from his lack of politics and intelligence by indulging in promiscuity, in theater loving, and all that stuff that Tiberius hated. And that's why Tiberius never thought of virtually eliminating Caligula like he did with everybody else because he killed Agrippina the Elder in exile. He killed his brother in exile, Drusus, which made Caligula virtually the heir of the throne. Because Tiberius, as I remember, didn't have any surviving male children, only women, and they gave birth to sons, which made them Tiberius's grandsons and Caligula's nephews. I think nephews or some sort of blood relation. Blood relations in antiquity are very strange, but that didn't mean shit because Caligula was still alive. He was the next heir to the throne, right? And Tiberius kept him alive mostly for his own, not distraction, but as a reminder of what happens to his enemies, because he viewed Caligula as weak, as deeply flawed, as a pervert, and being a pervert in Roman society was crazily important and crazily negatively viewed, like in today's society. But basically, that was meant as a warning to his enemies, like, hey, this is what happened to Caligula's line. This is the last surviving member of that line. I destroyed that line, and this is the last surviving member, and he's a fucking deviant. He basically kept Caligula as a slave, as a prisoner, and only as a stark reminder of his enemy's defeat. Now, the thing is, Tiberius was in his mid 70s. He didn't trust Caligula much. He thought there was something hidden beneath his facade, but never really put the finger as to what. Because if he had realized everything sooner, he would have had him killed. That's without question. But he never really put his finger on what he felt was wrong with Caligula. So he let him live until he died. Tiberius died suddenly. Some historians attribute that to Caligula actually poisoning him, but I think it's bogus. Most modern historians think that is bogus. So I'm gonna go with modern historians' perception of that. He dies before taking care of his succession line, which is hugely important in antiquity. Because if you don't take care of your succession line, then an undesirable can take control of the power. And when that happens, he can extinguish your own line. And Tiberius failed to do that. Basically, because he was also very paranoid of everybody around him. And I don't think he ever expected to die. But again, he was in his mid 70s. For that age, mid 70s was a pretty advanced age and an age that most people really didn't live to see. So he dies, Caligula inherits the throne. Now, fast forward to the start of his reign. He takes the throne in 37 AD. Now, most accounts from that period state how good of an emperor Caligula actually turns out to be. Because let's get this straight, he was 25 at that point. He was generally mistrusted, generally seen as anti-Roman aristocratic values. He was considered an outcast by the aristocracy because of his artistic inclinations, his passion for art, his sexual promiscuity. They never they thought he was weak, and a weak emperor can be manipulated. They really made a mistake there because Caligula was anything but weak. But weak. Everybody in that time, like most writings surviving from that period or the period immediately after, tell a story that Caligula was actually a very good ruler at the start of his reign. He invested a lot of money in architectural projects meant to help the ordinary citizens. He did a lot of things that actually helped the Roman citizens as opposed to the nobles or the senators. He basically campaigned with the army a lot. He allocated a lot of his time to the people and to the army, and very little to the Senate. And in that time, when the Senate was still strong, that was viewed as a treason. Because you got to understand, the Senate was supposed to be the real governing body, not the emperor. The emperor was considered to be merely a facade. Like he is the best of the citizens and he is representative of the Roman people, but he shouldn't be allowed to rule. Now, Caligula tried to pass a lot of laws and bribes and threatening senators to pass laws that would increase an emperor's powers and would actually transition the emperor from more of a figurehead role and a military commander role to a political powerhouse. And they hated his guts for that. That led to a lot of disputes between him and the Senate, a lot of debates between them, very harsh debates, even to the point that Caligula actually attempted to install his own horse as a senator. Now, everybody said he was crazy for doing that. I don't think he was crazy. It was a very blatant mockery of senators, basically equating senators to horses, mocking their intelligence, mocking their ability to actually lead. Because a horse carries you, it doesn't lead you. You lead the horse, and I think that's what Caligula was trying to accomplish here. Like, hold on your horses, senators. You hold on your horses. See what I did there? Horse. All right, I'm stupid. So, stupid pun. Sorry for that. So, what he was trying to say was that you're no smarter than my horse, and at the same time, you don't lead me. I lead you where I want to lead you. And that was one of the last straws that the senators could take from him. He did a lot of crazy stuff, like declaring war against the sea, trying to invade Britain, but coming home only with after declaring war on Neptune, the god of the seas, and coming back with a lot of seashells. Now, modern historians think that seashells were actually an euphemism for women slaves, which actually makes a lot of sense. In ancient texts, in Roman texts, seashells were an euphemism for female slaves. And I think Caligula actually raided some Celtic tribes and took slaves from them. So he didn't invade Britain per se, but he did instill fear in the barbarians. I think this is a presumption on my part. Now, from this point forward, all writings about Caligula from that period disappear, and they everybody that writes about Caligula afterwards does so about a couple, I mean, 100 to 100 years older, or rather older than his rule, basically. So he ruled in 41, I mean 41, 47. That means they wrote it starting with 100 AD. And by that time, his line was viewed as decadent. All the emperors were viewed as basically bad, horrible. And it's very peculiar that all the good writings about him just vanished from that point on forward. And everything that we are left of are bad and very demeaning accusations against him. Now, modern historians think that is not true, and I agree. So I dismiss those exaggerations, those mockery attempts. Those are, I mean, most modern historians, and myself included, I'm not a historian, but I'm a history passionate. Uh, Most of them dismiss that as fictitious and malicious fiction, actually. Why would that be? Why would they try to do that? Because they want to smear who Caligula was. They try to demean his line. They want to destroy him as a character so they can justify their own ascendance to the throne, their own emperor's ascendance to the throne. They want to say that, oh no, Caligula was actually this bad meanie that didn't do anything good, and he was cruel, he was a tyrant, he was sadistic, he was crazy in the head. So it made sense to assassinate him. I mean, what were we supposed to do? It's not real. Neither of that is real. Caligula's death was actually met with riots in the streets of Rome because the people loved him. They thrived under his rule. Everybody loved him in the empire. It was only a select few that held power that had a problem with him. At the center of which was Claudius. Now, the thing with Claudius is he was um, Caligula's uncle. But he was old, he was sort of deformed, he couldn't walk straight, he was brittle. So Caligula mocked him every chance he got. He made him sing in high pitches, he threw things at him, he called him stupid every single fucking day, he called him names, he basically made fun of him. He was a bully to Claudius. Now, what would Claudius do? So when there is a conspiracy to kill Caligula, because he's basically, so what he did was destroy the Senate's reputation. He was visibly antagonizing the Senate, which was unheard of and unthinkable for the Roman aristocracy. Well, the senators decided, with the help of the Praetorian Guards. The Praetorian Guards were mostly mercenaries for hire, so if they put in a bigger bid, then the Praetorians would have killed him, which actually happened. Actually, there were two factions of the Praetorian Guards. So the Praetorian Guards that were bribed killed the other Praetorian Guards that actually attempted to help Caligula, and then killed Caligula himself. And surprisingly, they found Claudius behind the curtain and decided to make him an emperor. Are you fucking kidding me? Society that thrives on plots, on backstabbing, on everything, every desperate housewife shit. You you want me to think that Claudius was just randomly there behind the curtain and the Praetorian Guard on a whim decided to make him an emperor? Fuck no. It was premeditated. Claudius knew he was gonna be made emperor that night. That's why he stayed. That's why he hid until the bloodshed was over. And the Praetorians knew very well what to do with Claudius, because that's the funny thing. When Claudius was installed, he reverted most of the changes Caligula made. He restored all the power back to the Senate. He was very pliable to the Senate. He fulfilled any of their wishes. He never went against them. He's regarded as a decent ruler. I think he was the trash ruler, in my opinion. The best was Majorian by far. Debate me on that in the comments if you want, but my Majorian was just amazing. And Caligula was very good as well. He only, remember, he only ruled for 4 years, and um, he annexed a lot of territory. He annexed Mauritania as a province. They weren't a client state anymore. They were a province now. He expanded the infrastructure of Rome and the empire itself. He built a lot of stuff for the people. So how is he bad though? Now, some proto-historians, or rather, I don't think they're proto-historians. I like to call them pseudo-historians because they're not historians per se. But most of these people from that time actually attributed Caligula's descending to madness, which was not really madness. He was paranoid towards the end of his reign, but only because there were like three assassination attempts on his life, three poisonings actually. One involving the royal taster. So of course he would grow paranoid, right? And he grew a little distrustful of people around him, which gave the Senate enough ammunition to just uh, fund a smear campaign on his name. But he was never cruel. He was never a tyrant. Yes, he was a sexual deviant. That is very well attested and very well supported throughout his whole life. He was a free spirit in many regards. Does that make him liable for an assassination? I don't think so. His own antagonizing the Senate and his inability to see Claudius as the monster that he was and capable of killing his own kin, uh, very akin to Tiberius if you think about it. Now, hmm, I don't know what to say. I think I think for years, for ages, for centuries, Caligula's name was smeared unjustly because he was, by all accounts from that age and by the general shock in the Roman population, a very good ruler. I mean, people were rioting because he was assassinated. You don't get that for cruel and tyrants, for cruel rulers and tyrants. So yeah, and I think at the center of all that was Claudius. It was very shady how they, on a whim, decided to make him an emperor, how he was demeaned by Caligula for so many years. I mean, it was like 3, 4 years, but he was demeaned by Caligula a lot, and he finally got his revenge. And the fact that he reverted most of of Caligula's decisions afterwards is again shady. Basically, bending over for the Senate to fuck him in the ass very hard. Now, I think this is all for today. I wanted to do not that long of a video. If you want me to explore Caligula's life better as an emperor and as a historical figure, then just let me know. Because there's a lot to talk about Caligula, and I might have I might have in mind a more structured video about him. So just let me know if you want more about Caligula or any other Roman figure or historical figure from the antiquity. Just hit me up. I am here to deliver. Thanks for thanks for sticking by until now and love you guys. You are amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. See ya.